What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're enjoying the content, and as I always say, if you are, please drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, and turn on notifications. So back to the weekly reviews. Last week's reviews were absolutely phenomenal. We had some fantastic moves in the market, and I really hope that you're all taking advantage of this. Now we're going to go through 20 pairs today, so hopefully we cover some of the pairs that you guys have been requesting. Also, I'll go into a little bit of detail on a few others and try and still keep the theme of keeping it short, brief and simple. So the first pair we'll take a look at is the dollar index. Now we spoke about this pair last week going down. I can see with this pair that we are obviously having clear dollar weakness and across the board with all the other Forex pairs. For that reason, I would like to see this market continue moving down. However, as you notice, we're in a push phase in this market. So what I would want to see on this market is a nice pullback before the continuation, and to see that happen I would like to see price pulling back to some of these major levels here to the left, and if not, creating some sort of lower high formation to indicate that the bearish pressure is stepping back into the market. Now let's not forget, this is a key level in the market, so if price doesn't find its rejection or the bearish pressure that it needs before it gets back to some of these prior levels to the left, then we'll be looking for price to come back to its key level at least. But for now, at least for the next 24 to 48 hours after the market opens, I'm going to be looking for bearish sentiment with this pair. The next pair that we'll take a look at is GU. Now, as you can clearly see, we had a strong rally to the upside last week. We did expect this market to move up, but of course, we know this is news inflicted. With a move like this in the market, I would like to see a strong correction before I get a directional bias. For that reason, I'll be expecting the market to pull back, come back for double tops, push the market down for sell opportunities, or at least to see some sort of bearish momentum, lower high formations, and then continuations to the downside. If price continues to go up, then what I would want to see price doing is coming back to some major levels and then creating some of the patterns that we may look for, which are double bottoms, triple bottoms, potentially higher lows, whatever it is you trade, before we look for any buys. But of course, if price continues to push up, then we may have to just stay away until we have this corrective move on this structure. The next pair we'll take a look at is gold. Now, as you can clearly see, gold has recently broke out of a range in this market. It was trapped in this for a very long period of time. We had some breakouts, breakbacks into structures, and now we finally had a strong breakout. Now, to be honest with you, I would like to see a strong correction on this pair, meaning I would like to see price come back to some of these major key levels, looking at this lower high within the range, or back to the actual structure itself for a retest, for continued sell opportunities. But I do identify a lot of bullish pressure in this market, and to be honest with you, I don't expect the dollar to be much stronger next week moving forward. So if this is going to be the key level where we can see a lot of bullish pressure, then I want price to leave this level, come back to this level for a retest, and then look for continuations back to the upside. I'll start to disregard this range now and start to work with new structure before I make a directional bias. But for now, a corrective move at least back to a key level. For continued sales, I'll be looking for the rejections. And I'll bear in mind that this is a key level where there's a lot of bullish pressure, just in case we have a corrective structure back to the upside. The next pair we'll take a look at is Swiss franc. Now again, this pair is very overextended. We are coming into a major area in the market, so I would suspect at this moment in time we may have a correction on this market before a continuation back to the upside. For that reason, for continued buys on this market, I'll be looking for a clean break retest continuation of this structure. And if we don't get the break of this structure, then I'll be looking for my sell opportunities if the market provides it, and I'll be looking for price to push down first to give me evidence that the market is in a bearish sentiment, and then a correction before a continuation back to the downside, looking for some sort of lower high formations to form. The next pair we'll take a look at is pound CAD. Now with this pair, we can see a lot of bearish pressure in this market. This pair is super overextended, and I am expecting a corrective structure. Now CAD done extremely well last week across the board, but then of course we had some news that pushed this market up. With this structure in this market, I would like to see price leave, come back to this key area in this market. The reason I want it to leave is to give me evidence of bearish pressure, and then I'll be looking for some continuations to the downside. If price manages to break above this structure, then I'll just be looking for a retest continuation if the market gives me the opportunity. For now, I need to see a correction before I decide to trade this with any confidence, as it's very overextended at the moment. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Euro USD. Now with this pair, I can clearly see that this market structure is up. it's very, very bullish. Price recently broke out of a major area in the market. As you can clearly see, we had a breakout, a beautiful retest, and a continuation to the upside. What I'll be monitoring now is this bearish pressure on this market, but to see how price comes back to this key level for a continuation to the upside. For any sell opportunities, I'll be waiting at least 24 to 48 hours for the market to correct. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Aussie dollar USD. Now we can clearly see that this market structure is up. We had a nice corrective structure on this market to the downside, and we've had this really strong rally to the upside, creating higher low formations, breaking previous structure highs, strong bullish pressure in this market. What I'd like to see with that structure, based on all of that information, is a nice pullback to some of these key areas in the market where price had reacted to the most, and see if we can have a continuation to the upside with this structure. I don't expect the dollar to be strong next week, but obviously it can change within seconds. If Trump decides to tweet something, then things can turn around majorly. But for now, I'm looking for a nice retest of previous structure for a continuation to the upside. The next pair we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar USD. Now, I am expecting this market to go up. Extremely happy that it's finally broken out of the range that it was failing to break out of for a very long period of time. I would like to see the market come back to some of these key levels for a continuation, or back to some of these rejection areas in the market for a continuation to the upside. At the moment, my bias on New Zealand dollar USD is up. The next pair we'll take a look at is USD CAD. Now, this market again is super overextended. As you can see, we've had a strong push to the downside. I'm looking for a correction on this market at least before we have a continuation to the downside. As I said, CAD did pretty well last week across the board, so I'll suspect that we'll have a continuation with CAD strength, especially against the dollar. So I'll be looking for price to create some sort of lower high formations, double top formations, and then continuations to the downside. The next pair we'll take a look at is oil. Now, we've been anticipating oil to go up for some time now. We finally broke out of area in the market where price was failing to break for a very long period of time. I would like to see the market come back to some of these key levels for a continuation. Bear in mind, it can also come back to some of these major lows in the market before we have this move to the upside. But for now, I'm still up bias on oil. And if that makes sense, it makes sense. But I'm buy bias on oil. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Aussie dollar CAD. Now, with this pair, I see it in a range at the moment. Okay, we have come to the bottom of this range, which simply means that price could bounce off of it. It is not a clean range as of yet, but if price does come to this level and to give us evidence of bullish pressure, then we'll be looking at the market as this sort of range. Always remember, just a tip, if you're buying or selling ranges, you're selling high, buying low. So this could be something to look out for. If you're not confident in trading ranges, we're waiting for the price to break structure, retest, continue, break structure, retest, continue. It is that simple, okay? Don't play with ranges if you're not confident, and if you are, just remember that tip. The next pair we'll take a look at is pound JPY. Now, again, this is a super overextended market. I'm expecting a correction on this market before continuation to the upside, or for continued sell pressure in this market. I'll be looking for price to leave this level, come back for a retest, and then look for the sell opportunities. This will take at least 24 to 48 hours to develop, as we're looking at the 4-hour candles. So I'll patiently wait for just a little bit more evidence before I make a directional bias on GJ. The next pair we'll take a look at is Euro Yen. Again, same as GJ, it's a very overextended market with sell pressure in this pair. For a continuation up, I'll be looking for a correction on this market before we have this move to the upside. And with the sell pressure, again, I'll be looking for a price to give evidence of sell pressure, retest, and then continuations to the downside. That's Euro Yen. The next pair we'll take a look at is CAD Yen. Again, a very overextended market with sell pressure. What I'll be expecting is a correction before a continuation to the upside, or with the sell pressure, the same as the last two pairs, looking for price to come back, retest, continue. Now, of course, I'm going to be looking for my evidence, my confirmation. I'll be looking for my wicks, my patterns, and whatever else I use to help me get into the market. So the same for you. While these markets are overextended, the best thing to do is wait patiently for the corrections, for new structure to form before you dive into the markets to take a trade. The next pair we'll take a look at is USD Swiss franc. Now, I feel, in my opinion, that this is a sell by structure. However, we have just broken out of a range. We're retesting it now. But I do see evidence of strong bearish pressure in this market. So I will use this as my key level, and I'll be looking to see how price reacts to in and around this level for a continuation down. If we can finally break close above this structure, I'll be mindful of the range into when buying into the structure to see how we retest some of these levels here before we continue this move to the upside. But at the moment, I'm more sell biased than anything, but I still need a little bit more evidence before I make a directional bias. The next pair we'll take a look at is USD JPY. Now we're at a major key level in this market. As you can clearly see, this is the reason why we're getting this rejection. We are in a very overextended market. I'm expecting this market to bounce in this way to the downside, and on UJ I'm sell biased. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Euro Aussie Dollar. With this pair, we can see that we've had a strong reaction at this level here in the market. We finally had a break close below this structure. That means I'm looking for a price to push, retest structure before continuation to the downside. On Euro Aussie Dollar, I'm sell bias. The next pair we'll take a look at is Euro Pound. Now, again, a super overextended market. I'll be looking for a correction and then a continuation to the downside if that's what it wants to do. Of course, if we don't get the correction and we have a continued push to the downside, then I'm just not going to trade it. I'm going to wait patiently for the market to build structure before I decide to dive in and take a trade. The next pair that we'll take a look at is Euro CAD. Now, with this market, I am currently looking for sells. We finally broke out of this range, but it's not a clear breakout as of yet. We need price to leave the structure to come back for a retest before a continuation, because what could happen is we could have a strong break back into structure, a retest of this level before a continuation up. For that reason, I'm waiting for both setups to play out. If the market does not show me continued bearish pressure, which means I need to see the market push, exhaust, and then continue. If we have a break back in, I'll be mindful of a retest of this structure and a continuation to the upside. The final pair that we'll take a look at is New Zealand Dollar JPY. Again, a super overextended market with bearish sentiment. I'll use this as my major level to see if we get a push in this market with a correction, retest, continuation. And if we're going to have a continued push to the upside, then I'm going to need to see price continue pushing to the upside, creating higher lows within this formation, and then look to ride it back up. So that's my bias on those 20 pairs. Very quick and simple. The market's going to open on Sunday. We're going to have the gaps. We need to allow for the market to correct, not necessarily fill the gaps, but correct, and then look for true structure. Once we get the true structure, we're going to be looking for the true directional bias, which is going to be up or down, and then we're going to wait for momentum to shift, wait for the corrections of that momentum, and then execute. Never trade blind, never sell resistance, never buy support until you get enough confirmation. And one tip that I can give you, if you plan to take a buy or a sell, wait for your double tops, wait for your double bottoms, and you will see a major difference in your trading. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a great weekend. Catch you all next week. Take care for now. Bye bye.